An object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an external force. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to start? To just begin and do anything? To lose weight, to start that dream project, or whatever aspirations and goals we have. I started this video quoting Newton's first law because I wonder how inertia applies to us as well. And if it does, it'll probably go something like, a person at rest will remain at rest unless what exactly? Hi, my name is Arn. I'm a game developer, and I'm the sole developer of a game called Yours Truly, which I've been working on for almost 4 years now. And today I will explore with you the reasons why starting is the hardest part and what are the ways for us to overcome it.
In a few days, it'll be a new year. For some people, it'll be just another day, but for most, it'll be significant, maybe even profound. Many of us will want to start a goal that we've always wanted to do, but for whatever reason we don't, or when we do, we easily fall off. I'm very familiar with that cycle as well, However, as someone who has created my own games, even failed at them, starting isn't as hard as it used to be anymore. Because at this point in my life, I've had practice. However, that's not to say that I don't have any fears or anxiety or insecurities about starting whatever it is that I want to do. And now that my game is releasing in a few months, I am absolutely scared to market my game. I have specific insecurities about the quality of my game compared to other developers who are in the same space that I am. Also the fact that my last game failed, so in terms of releasing a game, all I've ever known is failure. So here I am, making a video on YouTube in hopes of getting an audience for myself and to direct them to buying my game. Hopefully. It's absolutely scary because in terms of marketing, I don't have any clue. In terms of advertising, I don't know how to advertise. So my first instinct is to go on social media and create YouTube videos and Instagram Reels, TikTok, and whatever else is available to me. I have no idea how to grow a channel, to get followers, or go viral. But ultimately, whatever it is that I'm feeling is kind of redundant. So even though I'm faced with not knowing, I still have to do it. I think what matters the most is what I know and what I want to do. And what I know and what I want to do is to tell my story and to be as genuine as possible. Maybe someone out there needs to hear whatever message that I have to say. And that thought alone is enough for me to start. So here I am, recording myself. And I'd be lying if I said I don't care about how many likes, views, comments, subscribers I get in every video. Because I do. I'll just have to keep going. Because at the end of it all, I have to start somewhere. And just like I said earlier, starting is the hardest part.
If we consider Newton's first law, or the law of inertia, philosophically in principle, it can also explain why it is inherently difficult for us to start anything new. After all, inertia is a fundamental concept in physics that describes the tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion. Let me reiterate that. The tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion. Interestingly enough, our minds also experience inertia, or in our case, psychological inertia. It's our tendency to resist changes in our thoughts, habits, and behaviors, even when those changes might be beneficial to us. And just as physical inertia keeps an object at rest or in motion unless acted upon by an external force, mental inertia keeps us in a state of rest or routine until something compels us to think or act differently. When we are at rest, meaning we're stuck in a routine, procrastination, or comfort zone, it's difficult to break free. The habits and the mindset that kept us at rest resist change, making it challenging to take the first step towards our goal. Being at rest, there is stability and predictability. Starting something disrupts the state and introduces uncertainty, effort, and potential failure. Whether it's a project, a habit, or a journey, requires disrupting this equilibrium that we created for ourselves. We naturally resist such disruptions. We prefer the ease of staying where we are physically, mentally, and emotionally, even if it is detrimental to our own well-being. Much like a stone resists movement without a push, the comfort of the familiar holds us in place, making the initial step seem monumental. Also, sometimes it's difficult to start because we just don't have the energy. Sometimes our energy is allocated elsewhere and needs to be consolidated into something more productive. In physics, overcoming inertia requires force. In life, this force takes the form of motivation, willpower, or necessity. The energy required to transition from rest to action feels significant because it demands breaking through mental and emotional barriers, such as procrastination, doubt, or fear. This initial push often feels disproportionately harder than continuing the effort once begun. It becomes easier to continue, just as an object in motion requires less energy to stay in motion than to start moving. Another reason why I think it's so hard to start is because starting something new often involves stepping into the unknown, which can provoke a lot of fear and self-doubt. This emotional weight adds to our difficulty in taking the first step. The uncertainty we feel can be paralyzing, similar to the emotional equivalent of friction. This is why the comfort of staying still feels safer than the uncertainty of moving forward. As human beings, we are very good at overestimating the risk and underestimating our own ability to overcome and navigate challenges. But I think the most common reason why it's so hard for us to start is simply because the weight of overthinking. Sometimes the difficulty lies not in the action itself, but in the mental buildup leading to it. Overanalyzing or anticipating challenges can create psychological inertia that can paralyze action. Overanalyzing a task can amplify the perception of difficulty, making the first step feel insurmountable. This mental drag increases the effort required to start. Much like heavier objects require more force to move, spending hours planning a perfect strategy for starting a project can delay the actual start indefinitely. Starting anything is a lot more complicated than just doing it. It's really just overcoming ourselves and overcoming our overthinking. It's funny because we know we want it, sometimes we even need it, but we don't take action not because of who we are, but because of how we have lived. Rejects the idea of who we could be. But how do we actually begin? How do we go about overcoming psychological inertia? Remember that any meaningful result starts with the smallest action. By applying a small, consistent force instead of overexerting ourselves, we will not burn ourselves out. And in time, we will make ourselves stronger to produce an even greater force, which will help produce the energy required to overcome psychological inertia. If it's a big goal, start by breaking down the task that needs to be done into tiny, manageable steps. Instead of committing to writing a book right away, commit to writing a single sentence, then a paragraph, an essay, then a short story, until you can write a book. If your intrinsic motivation is not as strong, you can create external forces. Because external pressure can spark initial movement. Use accountability, deadlines, or other external motivators that can create the unbalanced force that can help push you into motion. Ask a friend to check on your progress, partner with a friend to tackle the same goal, or announce your plans publicly to your friends and family on social media. Social pressure and accountability can act as an external force that can counter inertia. While you're using external forces to set yourself in motion, you can work on building your intrinsic force. Learn to enjoy deep and meditative work, learn to love the creative intellectual freedom you're able to express, and learn to be grateful to yourself for creating the opportunity and the privilege to work on your goal that will ultimately make you a better version of yourself and give you everything you've always wanted. Also imagine the benefits of being in motion. Focus on the satisfaction and rewards that come with progress rather than the discomfort of starting. Ask yourself, what will I gain by starting this? How will I feel once I've made progress? Who will I become after I start? A positive vision can act as an internal force that reduces fear and as a motivator. I think the biggest mistake that we do whenever we're beginning is that we don't focus on starting, but instead we try to perfect. Remember, don't begin with the intention of executing perfectly. Accept that the first step doesn't need to be flawless. Accept that you don't know much or anything at all, and that the first step is also learning. Remind yourself that just taking action is a success. Ignore the entire journey and think only about the immediate action required to begin. Remind yourself that progress can be small and it begins with imperfection. Also, remove distractions and barriers. Make it as easy as possible to begin by eliminating distractions and reducing friction. The fewer steps there are between you and the task, the easier it will be to start. Put your phone away or turn off notifications. Lay out the necessary tools or resources ahead of time. By reducing external resistance, it will help lower mental resistance. Make sure to create the necessary environment that makes starting easier. If If you have any underlying fears, insecurities, anxiety about starting, make sure to face them head on. Psychological inertia often stems from fear of failure, embarrassment, imperfection, or the unknown. Reflect on what's holding you back and challenge these fears. Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Or are my fears realistic, or am I overthinking? Take power away from your fears and diffuse them by understanding and rationalizing them. Remember to reward yourself from time to time. Tie immediate rewards to starting or completing parts of the task. Treat yourself to a snack after working for 20 minutes. Watch your favorite show after completing part of the task, because rewarding yourself creates a positive association with any actions that you need to take. Also, practice self-compassion. Recognize that psychological inertia is normal and it doesn't reflect any character flaw at all. You can tell yourself that it's okay to feel stuck. The first step is always the hardest part. You can also tell yourself to start slow and go at your own pace. As long as you're taking any action, it's fine. Because self-compassion helps lessen the stresses and the guilt that exacerbates psychological inertia. And finally, once you take your first step, you can start integrating small, regular actions into your daily life. You can spend 5 minutes a day working on your goal and gradually increasing it over time. Habits are so important because habits automize action, which reduces the mental effort required to start. Newton's first law reflects a universal truth about beginnings. It's that starting is the hardest part. The effort required to overcome the inertia of rest often feels immense, and understanding this inertia, understanding that rest is easy and motion is hard, at least at first, is the key to overcoming it, whether through small actionable steps or creating a sense of urgency. The focus should be on generating the force needed to break the state of rest. And once momentum builds, the journey towards any goal becomes smoother, aligning with the natural tendency of an object, or in this case, a person in motion to stay in motion. Remember that the challenge of starting is not a sign of weakness at all, but a universal principle of nature, and that overcoming psychological inertia requires focus, determination, and a willingness to embrace small, imperfect beginnings. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video or find this video helpful at all, please like and subscribe. Again, thank you and Happy New Year.